I'm Susan Harper, 29, a financial advisor running Harper Wealth Fund in Spokane, Washington. I'd poured my heart and expertise into funding the venue Davenport Hotel's grand ballroom and the decor from elegant floral arches to shimmering lights and pristine table settings, all for my sister's big day. I walked into the reception, my heels clicking on the polished floor, expecting a seat among family. But my seat was left empty. I found nothing. No place card. No chair. My parents exchanged glances, then chuckled. Oops. Guess we miscounted. The room erupted in laughter, guests whispering their eyes, mocking me. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile, scanning the tables one last time. No mistake. I was erased. The sting of their laughter burned deeper than I can describe. I'd paid for every detail of this night, yet here I was, an outsider at my own sister's wedding. My parents' casual dismissal, that smug miscounted, echoed in my head. I clenched my fists, took a breath, and said, "Seems I'm not family." Then I turned and walked out, their chuckles fading behind me. In that moment, I knew I'd do something they'd never forget, something to make their smug faces freeze. What I did next left them speechless, but you'll have to stick around to see how I turned their laughter into shock. If you've ever been sidelined by your own family, drop a comment below. Hit subscribe to join the drama. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. To understand why that moment broke me, you need to know my family. When we were kids, Julia Harper and I were inseparable. 3 years older, my sister was my world, brilliant, beautiful, always the star. At 7, I'd trail her around our Spokane backyard, mimicking her cartwheels, borrowing her glittery hair clips. She'd laugh, braiding my hair, teaching me how to charm teachers with a smile. We aced school projects together, built blanket forts, and whispered secrets under the stars. I idolized her, always stepping back to let her shine. If she wanted the last cookie, I'd hand it over beaming when she hugged me. Julia was my hero, and I was her shadow. As we grew older, things shifted. Our parents, Ronald Harper and Diane Harper, started treating us differently. Julia, at 16, got a new wardrobe for her debate team finals, funded by Dad's paycheck. I wore her hand-me-downs, my requests for art supplies brushed off as frivolous. Finance isn't a real career, Mom would say when I talked about investments, my high school passion. Julia's advertising path is practical. They'd beam when Julia pitched her ideas, even when her campaigns flopped. By college, Julia's projects, ads for local startups, most of which tanked, earned her dad's cash for essentials like designer bags. My savings from part-time jobs, ignored. I'd overhear them bragging about Julia's potential at family dinners, while my straight-A report cards got a nod, nothing more. Julia's career stumbled early. A major advertising pitch tanked when her client called her work careless, costing her agency a big contract. Yet Mom and Dad stood by her, praising her drive and covering her overdue bills. My passion for finance, though, was met with skepticism. At 19, I showed Dad a plan for a stock portfolio, hoping he'd see my ambition. As a doctor, he valued predictability and scoffed, "That's too risky, Susan." Meanwhile, Julia got cash for a flashy ad idea that never saw daylight. The double standard cut deep, but I held on to the belief that family came first. I reached out to Julia, desperate to recapture our childhood closeness. I'd text her about her work, offering to review a client's budget with my finance skills. She'd brush me off with a smug, "No need, little sis." Mom and Dad adored her confidence, blind to her crumbling projects. My achievements, like earning a scholarship or landing my first financial client, barely registered. They'd call Julia their visionary, while I got a distracted good job. Still, I kept showing up, sending holiday cards to Mom and Dad, inviting Julia for lunch, hoping they'd one day notice my worth. That hope kept me tethered, even as I felt like a stranger in my own family. The gap widened as we hit our 20s. Julia's career sputtered, another failed campaign, a missed promotion, but Mom and Dad kept bailing her out. They'd call her our star, while my internships at financial firms, my late nights studying markets, went unnoticed. I'd share my successes, a scholarship, a client win, and get a half-hearted, "That's nice, dear." Julia's flops, though, were learning experiences. I felt like an outsider in my own home, but I clung to the idea that family sticks together. I'd invite Julia for coffee, send mom and dad cards, keep the door open. Deep down, I believed they'd eventually value me. Looking back, I see how naive I was. The favoritism wasn't just unfair, it was a wedge slowly splitting us apart. Julia soaked up their adoration while I fought for scraps of approval. I kept trying, kept hoping, but the cracks were there waiting to shatter. After college, I carved my own path. At 29, I'd turned Harper Wealth Fund into a powerhouse in Spokane's financial world. My office buzzed with clients, local entrepreneurs, families planning for retirement, trusting me to grow their wealth. I'd sealed a deal with a tech startup, doubling their investment in a year, earning a nod in Spokane Business Journal as a financial trailblazer. I led seminars, mentored young advisors, and watched my firm's name light up downtown's skyline. Every late night spent analyzing markets felt like a victory, proof I didn't need my family's approval to shine. But when Julia got engaged to Kenneth, I saw a chance to mend our fractured bond by helping with her wedding. Mom called one autumn afternoon, her voice sharp. "Julia's wedding is at the Davenport Hotel," she said. "You're covering the costs." I agreed, thinking my contribution might earn their respect. As a financial advisor, I could handle the venue's deposit, a grand ballroom renowned for its crystal chandeliers. I dove into planning, hand-picking blush peonies for the centerpieces, their soft petals matching Julia's romantic theme. I chose warm string lights to drape across the ceiling, casting a golden glow over the tables. Each decision felt like a bridge to my family's heart. My parents and Julia, though, had their own agenda. They picked the Davenport Hotel as the venue and set a guest list of 200, inviting distant cousins and colleagues to bask in the event's grandeur. They reveled in the planning, mom boasting about the perfect location to relatives, dad praising Julia's knack for picking just the right crowd. My role, funding the entire reception and selecting the decor, went unnoticed. I texted Julia, excited about the peonies I'd chosen. "Looks fine," she replied, her tone flat. I suggested adjusting the guest list to manage costs. Mom shut me down, saying Julia knows who matters. Their focus stayed on Julia, their pride in her choices unwavering. I poured myself into the wedding, believing my efforts would matter. I wired the payment for the venue, ensuring every detail was flawless. I spent hours with the lighting crew, confirming the string lights would create the ambiance Julia wanted. At a family barbecue, I mentioned the floral arrangements, hoping for a spark of appreciation. Dad raised his glass to Julia's vision, ignoring my work. Mom gushed to guests about the Davenport's elegance, never mentioning who paid for it. I stood there smiling, my chest tight with the weight of their indifference. The unfairness cut deeper than I expected. Late at night, I'd stare at my laptop, the wedding budget glowing on the screen, wondering why my sacrifices were invisible. I'd call Mom, asking if she liked the string lights effect. "Julia's making this special," she'd say, brushing past my question. I kept going, finalizing the floral order, ensuring every peony was perfect. I thought funding the reception and crafting its beauty would show my love, make me part of the family. But they soaked up the event's splendor, the venue, the guest list, while giving Julia all the credit. I felt like an outsider, my contributions erased. Still, I clung to the hope that my work, every dollar, every light, would make them see me. I pictured the wedding day, imagining them thanking me for bringing it to life. That hope kept me tethered even as it started to fray. The wedding day started with a betrayal. I arrived at the Davenport Hotel, my heart heavy but hopeful, dressed in a navy gown I'd chosen to blend into the elegance of Julia's big day. The ballroom sparkled with the peonies and string lights I'd selected, a testament to the funds I'd poured into the event. As guests mingled, I scanned the seating chart, my stomach twisting when I saw no place card with my name. I checked again, heart pounding, and found nothing. A server confirmed it, no seat for Susan Harper. Despite paying for the venue and crafting its beauty, I was erased from the celebration. Fury surged through me. I marched to the venue manager, my voice steady but sharp. "I'm canceling the contract I signed for this event," I said loud enough for nearby guests to turn. "The Harper family can cover the costs." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mom's face paled. Dad froze his champagne glass midair. Julia, in her glittering gown, stammered, "Susan, what are you doing?" The manager hesitated, then nodded, pulling the paperwork. My family scrambled, promising to settle the bill themselves, their composure crumbling before 200 guests. I stood tall, the weight of their disregard fueling my resolve. At that moment, Nathan Brooks, my friend and a sharp-eyed accountant, had texted me a warning. "Check your savings," he urged. I'd trusted him since college, so I logged into my account during a quiet moment before the ceremony. My blood ran cold. $200,000 was missing, siphoned from the account I'd built through years at Harper Wealth Fund. Nathan met me in a side room, his laptop open. "I traced it," he whispered. "Julia, Kenneth, and your parents accessed it through a forged signature." He showed me bank records transfers linked to Kenneth's email, a paper trail to a real estate deal for a house in Seattle. They'd planned to use my money for their new life, assuming I'd never notice. I felt the world tilt. My family, who'd ignored my sacrifices, had orchestrated this theft. Nathan's evidence was ironclad: emails between Kenneth and Dad discussing the loan, Julia's login on my account, Mom's name on a deposit slip. They'd counted on my silence, my loyalty. But that betrayal, the missing seat, the stolen savings, snapped something inside me. I wasn't their doormat anymore. During the reception, as toasts began, I stepped to the microphone, my hands shaking but my voice clear. "I have something to share," I said, eyes locking on Julia's. The room fell silent, forks clinking against plates. I paid for this wedding, the venue, the flowers, the lights. But my family left me no seat. Murmurs spread. I held up Nathan's printouts, my voice rising. "They also took $200,000 from my savings to buy a house, forging my signature." I pointed to Julia, Kenneth, Mom, and Dad. "This is who they are." Guests gasped, some whispering, others staring at my family in shock. Julia's face crumpled, her mascara smudging. "Susan, stop," she cried, but her voice was drowned by the crowd's murmurs. Kenneth stood red-faced, muttering excuses. Mom clutched Dad's arm, her eyes wide with panic. Dad tried to speak, but a guest cut him off, demanding answers. The room buzzed with disbelief, relatives exchanging stunned glances. I set the papers on a table, letting the evidence speak for itself. My family's shame was laid bare, their perfect image shattered before their social circle. I walked out, the weight of their betrayal lifting with each step. They'd laughed off my absence, but now they faced the consequences of their greed. I didn't look back. A week after the wedding, I dug deeper. The Davenport Hotel fiasco had left my family scrambling to cover the bill, but I couldn't shake the image of Julia's forged signature on my savings account. Nathan Brooks, my college buddy turned accountant, met me at a quiet coffee shop downtown, his laptop open on the table. I pulled the records, he said, sliding it over. The screen showed a trail of transfers, $200,000 siphoned to an account under Kenneth's name. Julia had signed my digital approval, mimicking my loop on the S. Nathan traced it to a real estate agent in Seattle, a down payment for a house. "They used your money?" He confirmed, his voice low. Forged contracts from Julia's agency propped up the loan, fake ad deals with ghost clients to inflate her income. My stomach churned. Julia's advertising firm, a small outfit in Spokane, had been her lifeline. Now it was a lie. Nathan dug further, uncovering gambling app receipts linked to Julia's card debts piling up from online poker sites. "She's in deep," he said. The house was their escape. I gripped my cup, the betrayal sinking in. My family had stolen from me, using my trust to fund their dreams. Nathan printed the documents, his brow furrowed. "You have everything to fight this," he said. I nodded, my mind racing. This wasn't just theft. It was the end of whatever bond we had left. The next day, I drove to Julia's office, a sleek building off Riverside Avenue. Her receptionist hesitated when I asked for her, but I pushed past heart-pounding. Julia looked up from her desk, her face paling as I slapped the printouts down. "Explain this," I said, my voice even. She glanced at the papers, then at me, her eyes darting to the door. "Susan, it's not what you think," she started, but I cut her off. "You forged my signature. Took $200,000 for a house with Kenneth, and the contract's fake ad deals to make your income look real." She shifted in her chair, her fingers twisting a pen. "We needed it," she admitted, her voice small. "You have so much with your fund. I thought you owed me for being the successful one, for always having it easy." Owed her. The words hit like a slap. I leaned forward, keeping my tone steady. "I paid for your wedding, Julia. Chose the flowers, the lights, everything. And you left me no seat. Now this?" She met my eyes, defiance flickering. "You're always the good one, Susan. The perfect sister. We just needed a boost." I shook my head, the hurt turning to steel. "That's not a boost. That's stealing." She opened her mouth to argue, but the door burst open. Mom and Dad stormed in, faces flushed from the drive. "What are you doing here?" Mom demanded, her voice sharp. Dad glared at me, his doctor's coat rumpled. "You've already ruined the wedding." "Now this," I stood holding the papers. "They stole from me, Mom. Forged my signature for $200,000. Mom's eyes widened, but she turned to Julia, her voice softening. "Is that true, honey?" Julia nodded, tears welling. Dad exploded. "You're selfish, Susan. Always making everything about you. Julia's your sister? She needed help." Mom joined in, her finger pointing. "You destroyed her day, canceling the venue in front of everyone, and now you're accusing her family supports each other." I stared at them, the words landing like blows. "Support. You left me no seat at her wedding. Ignored my efforts. And now you defend this." Dad's face reddened. "You're ungrateful. Julia's struggling, and you're too busy with your money games to care." Mom nodded, her eyes cold. "You broke her heart with that stunt. We raised you better." Their words echoed the old pattern: Julia, the victim; me, the villain. I felt the anger boil, but I kept my voice calm. "I raised you better than to steal from your own daughter." Dad stepped forward, his voice low. "You'll regret this, Susan. We're family." I met his gaze. "Not anymore." I turned to Julia, who looked away. "Keep the money, but you're on your own." I walked out the door, clicking shut behind me. Their shouts faded as I reached the parking lot, Nathan waiting in his car. "What happened?" he asked. I slid in the papers clutched in my hand. "They admitted it. Defended it." Nathan started the engine. "What now?" I stared at the road, the resolve hardening. "We end this." Their next move was desperate. Days after I confronted Julia, whispers started circulating in Spokane's business circles. A client called voice tight, saying they'd heard I'd mismanaged funds at Harper Wealth Fund, funneling money into risky ventures. Another emailed citing concerns about my ethics. I traced the rumors to an online forum post, anonymous, but dripping with details only someone close could know. My client list my recent deals. Then, a local business journal received a tip accusing me of falsifying records. The source: an email linked to Kenneth with a forwarded thread from Julia's work account. They were trying to torch my reputation, to ruin the firm I'd built from nothing. I sat in my office staring at the accusations, my hands trembling. Harper Wealth Fund was my life, years of late nights, client trust, and meticulous work. Julia and Kenneth thought they could dismantle it to save face after their theft was exposed. I called Nathan, my voice steady despite the panic. "They're coming for my business," I said. He arrived within the hour, his laptop ready, eyes sharp with focus. "They're sloppy," he said, pulling up a digital audit trail. Nathan had been monitoring my accounts since the wedding, anticipating retaliation. He found a forged financial statement stamped with my firm's logo, sent to a major client from an IP address tied to Kenneth's home office. "It's a setup," Nathan said. They're claiming you misreported profits to inflate your books. He dug deeper, cross-referencing the statement's metadata. It led to Julia's advertising agency, where she'd used her work server to draft the fake document. Nathan uncovered an email chain between her and Kenneth, plotting to leak the accusations to my clients and a regulatory board. "They're banking on you staying quiet," he said, handing me a USB drive with the evidence screenshots, timestamps, IP logs. I clutched it, my resolve hardening. "Not this time," I said. Nathan's work was a lifeline, proof that their lies couldn't stick. I spent the next week fortifying my defense. I met with my firm's lawyer, a sharp woman named Claire, who specialized in financial disputes. She reviewed Nathan's evidence, nodding as she flipped through the pages. "This is airtight," she said. "The forgery's traceable and their intent is clear." I pulled every record from Harper Wealth Fund client contracts, tax filings, audit logs, ensuring every transaction was clean. My team worked overtime, double-checking portfolios to counter any scrutiny. I contacted key clients, explaining the false accusations and sharing Claire's legal assessment. Most stood by me, their trust earned through years of results. One, a restaurant owner, texted, "I know you, Susan. This smells like a vendetta." With my firm secure, I turned to Julia's actions. Her fake ad contracts and gambling debts uncovered by Nathan were only the start. I hired a private investigator to dig into her agency's finances, suspecting more fraud. The investigator found inflated invoices sent to clients, payments funneled to offshore accounts to cover Julia's losses. I compiled a dossier, bank statements, forged contracts, debt records detailing her deceit. Every document was a weapon, a way to expose her beyond the wedding's fallout. I drafted a letter to her agency's board outlining her misconduct and prepared a public statement for Spokane's business community. I wasn't just defending myself. I was ready to show the world who Julia really was. Mom and Dad called, their voices shrill over the phone. "You're destroying Julia's life." Mom said, her tone accusing. Dad chimed in. "Your firm's fine, let this go." I hung up, their words hollow. They hadn't cared when Julia stole from me, but now they begged for her. I sat at my desk, the dossier in front of me, my heart steady. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. Julia and Kenneth had tried to bury me, but their lies would bury them instead. I sealed the letter, my plan set. The truth was ready to come out. I made my final stand. Weeks after Julia's attempt to tarnish my reputation, I learned she'd been pitching a major ad campaign to a tech startup, banking on a loan from Harper Wealth Fund to keep her agency afloat. The startup's CEO, a client I'd advised for years, called to confirm the deal. I reviewed the proposal. Julia's numbers were inflated, her promises shaky, relying on my firm's backing to secure the contract. I saw my chance. I met the CEO at a sleek Spokane bistro, laying out the truth about Julia's forged contracts and gambling debts. "I can't fund this," I said, pulling my firm's support. The CEO nodded, canceling the deal. Julia's agency, already on thin ice, lost its lifeline. With the project dead, I moved to expose her. I posted a detailed thread on a local business forum, sharing evidence from my dossier: fake ad contracts, offshore account transfers, gambling app receipts. I emailed the same to her agency's board and key clients, each document stamped with timestamps and bank records. The post went viral in Spokane's tight-knit community, shared across social media platforms. Comments poured in, calling Julia's actions disgraceful and unprofessional. Her clients dropped her, citing breached trust. By the end of the month, her agency folded, leaving her unemployed, her reputation in tatters. The fallout hit the family hard. Julia's failure rippled through Spokane's social circles. Ronald, once a respected doctor, faced whispers at his clinic. Colleagues questioned his judgment for defending his daughter's fraud. Diane, known for her community involvement, was shunned at school board meetings, her invitations to local events drying up. They tried to save face, hosting a dinner to explain Julia's side, but guests left early, unconvinced. I heard through a mutual friend they'd listed their house for sale, scrambling to cover Julia's debts and their own legal fees. Their perfect family image crumbled, replaced by pity and disdain. I didn't stop there. Mom sent an iMessage begging me to fix this for Julia's sake. Dad left voicemails, his tone sharp, demanding I retract my statements. I blocked their numbers, their words no longer holding weight. Kenneth reached out once, offering a half-hearted apology, but I deleted it unread. I was done. I changed my phone number, moved my office to a new building downtown, and cut every tie to them. My family had chosen Julia's lies over me, and I chose myself. Harper Wealth Fund thrived. I landed a major contract with a regional bank, my team expanding to handle new clients. I bought a condo overlooking the Spokane River, its view a daily reminder of the life I'd built. Nathan and I celebrated over dinner, his steady friendship a constant through the chaos. I started mentoring young women in finance, sharing my story to inspire them. My firm's name glowed brighter on the skyline, a symbol of my resilience. Looking back, I see the lesson clearly. My family tried to define my worth, dismissing me as the lesser daughter, the one who didn't belong. They used my success, stole my savings, and left me no seat at their table. But I learned my value isn't tied to their approval. Self-respect means walking away from those who hurt you, even if they're family. I built a life I'm proud of, not because of them, but despite them. To anyone reading this, if your family tears you down, know you're enough. Cut the ties that bind you to their toxicity and build your own path. You're worth it.